Hello, welcome back to America's Funniest Handyman and our first DIY video of the year 2021. This year, I will be publishing a new informative and fun DIY video every single Saturday. And I also have a new website called americasfunniesthandyman.net. On the new website, you can follow my home improvement blog, you can hire me virtually, or you can just buy some cool swag and tools. Today, I'm going to be teaching you how to install a front door, but not just a front door, an entire entry system complete with side lights and a storm door. I've always loved hanging doors, and over the years, I've hung literally thousands of them, and I never get tired of it. Since I didn't plan this video out entirely, my friends and I are going to drop by during post-production to fill in the details and provide some very necessary comic relief. America's Funniest Handyman. Come for the knowledge, stay for the laughs. So don't forget to press the subscribe button. America's Funniest Handyman. Come for the knowledge, stay for the laughs.
Fixing stuff in a serious way, but not so serious guy.
Hello and good morning to all of you people out there in do-it-yourself land. I'm about to do a front entry system. As you can see, this is the new door system, and this is the old door system. It's December, it's freezing outside, so one of the things that you gotta do is you gotta make sure that you do the bulk of the work in one day, because by the end of the day, you gotta be able to lock the door, and you gotta be able to seal out this freezing cold weather. Or if you're doing it in the summertime, you wanna seal out the heat and humidity.
Perhaps you live in an apartment or a condominium and you don't want the cooking odor of 1,000 different nations wafting into your apartment all night,
giving you scary dreams and flashbacks.
Okay, I wasn't planning on making this video, so all I have today to be funny with is a rubber chicken. But I thought it would be a good idea to make it anyway, because if you're a homeowner, you probably have a front door. And if you're not happy with your front door, or if it's broken, it can be a daunting task to think about replacing it. And so today I'm just going to show you some of the ins and outs and tricks of installing an entry door system. Here we are, we've got everything ready to go. This is the entry system that we're going to be installing. And one thing I want to tell you is that before you go ahead and order an entry system, you definitely want to take off a couple pieces of trim to confirm some of the measurements. Because once the door is here and it's on your porch, you own it. And if it's a little too big for the opening, then you're going to have to do some modifications. So,
hello there, I'm Angus. Today I'll be playing the part of the magical Detail Fairy. I'm here to fill in the blanks that Mr. Smarty Pants McCarpenter was in too much of a hurry to mention. Either that or he just plain forgot. I know he looks smart, but it's all smoke and mirrors, folks. He's actually quite a dingbat. So when it comes time to measure the rough opening of your existing doorway, you want to use a sharp utility knife and carefully score that tiny little seam where the trim meets the house. And then you want to use two small pry bars like this and carefully start at one end of the trim and just little by little take it out. And don't worry if you break something. I mean, in just a couple of weeks, you're probably going to replace the whole door and all of the trim anyway. So don't worry. You want to take a very accurate measurement of what we call the rough opening. Rough opening sounds like a term you'd use to describe prison sex, doesn't it? Or maybe to describe the way that one feels the day after eating too many hot wings. But get used to it. There's a lot of double entendres in the building and construction industry.
And oh, the other thing I wanted to mention is that if you really want to learn carpentry, there is nothing better in the world for your
Carpentry brain than working on doors.
Doors
will consistently teach you many, many things about carpentry, including my favorite thing in the world to talk about, patience. So even though it's freezing outside today, I definitely brought plenty of patience with me because that's what you need. Now I'm just gonna start dismantling the old door system. We're gonna take off as many things as we can take off before I have to start cutting things.
Okay, that's it. Let's get to work.
Okay, here we are. First thing I did is I took the storm door off and I took the front door out just using the hinge pins. And then I removed all of the trim around this side of the door and I removed all of the trim on the other side of the door. I am now going to give you a close-up of what it looks like around the entire frame so that you can measure for your own front door. That's it. As you can see, we're getting closer to the door and the opening, so I'm going to show you the side trim. Here is where the edge of the whole entire door frame ends, and then here is where the house begins. As you can see, we've got a small void to contend with, and in this case we have some brick that is separated from the old framing. So we'll fill that with some insulation. But this is the spot. These are the places, the edge of the door right here and the top of the door right here where the trim comes off. This whole entire outside edge is the measurement that you want to base your door off of. This new door is 80 or 82 inches tall from the bottom to the top, which is just small enough to fit into this opening right here. And we also took the trim off on the inside of the house, and you can see where the sheetrock bumps right up against everything. So if your new door is slightly larger, your new whole door frame is slightly larger than the old one, you may have some sheetrock to cut. So I'm just going to finish demoing the rest of this door, which we've gotten the difficult things out, and now it's just a matter of pushing and pulling and not breaking up a bunch of sheetrock, and then we'll prepare the opening for the new door. What do you think of that? Okay, so we're about to install this whole system, but one of the things you want to do before you install a door is you want to take out the door, if that makes sense. So we're going to install the whole frame, but first we want to take out the door, and the easiest way to do that is while the door is shut, you take a nail punch and a hammer, and from underneath, you just tap the pins out. Obviously, you want to make sure that the nail punch is slightly ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, as you can see, I've got the entire door system in the opening, and what I did is I spaced it perfectly even between left and right so that when I put my trim on at the end, everything comes out nice and even. And then I used shims evenly placed at anywhere from a foot to 16 inches apart on the outside, and I used a nice solid shim or two, depending on the amount of space that you have available. And I placed those shims everywhere that I want to put a screw. If you don't have something back behind the screw where you're adding it, what'll happen is you'll try to tighten that down and it'll actually move the whole system just a hair. So you want to be real careful and diligent when you're putting your screws in that are going to hold the whole system together. In this case, what I used were some long 3-inch trim head screws that will stay nice, keep everything nice and secure. But because the head on the end of the screw is so small, it makes it much simpler and easier to come behind and spackle it and make those holes disappear before you paint it. So now what I'm going to do is, if you will notice, even though it's all installed, the door doesn't close all the way. Now this is the part I was talking about just a few minutes ago where I said the doors really require a lot of patience, but at the same time, they can teach you so many things about carpentry. So the first thing I want to do is get to the bottom of that. And all I'm going to do is I've checked it out, and what I'm going to do is one hinge at a time, I'm going to remove these screws, get my chisel out, and make a slightly deeper mortise of another 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch, and then I'm going to put that hinge back. And I'm going to do that to all 3 hinges, and that'll bring the whole door in a little bit and move it just a hair closer this way so that it'll open and close properly. And on a lot of pre-hung door systems, you have a threshold that is also adjustable. So I'm also going to take some time and double check that. This is the point where the fine tuning comes in. So here's one thing I want you to remember whenever you're installing a door, is once you get to this point, every time you take out a screw or a hinge and put a new one in, open and close the door. That way, you don't go ahead and put 3 or 4 screws in on the hinges and put a bunch of trim in and then come back and find out that something that you did made the door not work properly. All right? So remember, every time you put in a new screw on a new door or you're working on a door, you want to check and make sure that the door still opens and closes properly. Today, I'm going to use a bunch of spray foam insulation around the perimeter, and tomorrow morning when I come back to this house, all of that spray foam insulation will be done expanding, and then I can trim it off, and now we'll have a nice, comfortable, new, warm home for the winter. Oh, and the other thing I'm going to do is, now that I've got all my screws in, I'm going to go ahead and chop off the ends of all of these shims so that I can add my new trim to the outside and new trim to the inside. We just wanted to get to the meat of the problem so that you guys could get in, get out, and go work on your own door. I'll be back in just a second with a couple more helpful tips before we wrap it all up. Oh, this is very much fun, playing with the wood and the moldings and everything, yeah? Listen, please press the like button and become a subscriber like all the popular people. Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to reposition a door by moving the hinges slightly. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to bring this door slightly more toward the hinge by making a slightly deeper mortise on the hinge by removing a little bit more material, one hinge at a time. If you do one hinge at a time on a 3-hinge door, you don't have to take the door down. First, I take the screws out. Now I'm going to use a nice sharp chisel. I'm going to remove about a 1/16, maybe an 1/8 of an inch of material, nice and evenly all the way up.
Maybe you can't tell a joke, but when your stuff gets broke, what do? You give Tommy a call, whether it's large or small. There's no project he can't see through. Let's laugh and learn from this handyman, with Kitty hold this by his side, fixing stuff in a serious way with a not so serious guy.
Now I can put my hinge back. Okay, good morning folks. Here we are on day 2. As you can see, I monkeyed around with this whole thing last night, and I was able to get it installed and working properly. We got a new doorknob and a new latch on, and as you can see, I've gone around and used spray foam to seal out all of the cold air. I'm gonna now, this morning, I'm gonna cut all of that. I'm gonna cut all of this insulation off, and then I'm gonna add some trim.
Spray foam cuts nice and easy with a good old-fashioned sheetrock saw, which, by the way, a sheetrock saw doubles nicely as a shiv if you have to get into a prison fight.
I've got quite a few pieces of trim here that I'm going to add. This is my door casing for the inside, and this is my attractive, beautiful ram's head PVC molding that I'm going to use on the outside, which will cover up all of this nastiness. Now, so let's go inside, take a look at the inside. All right, inside, as you can see, looks just like the outside in that it's installed and ready for trim. So as we move forward, we will also continue to try to seal up any small air gaps so that we don't let a bunch of cold air in the house. And that's about it, unless you're going to paint it, which I'm going to do probably tonight or tomorrow. So anyway, yesterday was day 1, which was get everything in and get the door locked up and sealed before you leave. And then day 2 is typically trimming things out. And if you're going to paint it, paint it. And that's what we're going to do. Okay, bye. Oh, and you know what? While we're down here, I want to take just a minute and give you a couple pointers on these here thresholds. If you can see, this is a screw that allows you to adjust the height of the threshold. This pre-hung door came from the factory, and it was hung probably about an 1/8 of an inch or a 1/16 of an inch too low. So I had to actually pull this thing up, take it out, and modify it and work on it for at least an hour. And that's how I finally got the door to open and close right. That's it. Hello there. Oh, where's my chicken? I gotta get my chicken so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, as you can see, we got our last little bits of trim all around the edges. And it looks real nice, doesn't it? Just that one little piece of trim sure does make a big difference. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and put a storm door on this thing. But I want to show you something tricky that you got to think about whenever you're doing storm doors, okay? Oh, it's cold, isn't it? My nose and my ears are red because it's cold outside. And that's why we're going to add a storm door, just for a little added protection to the inside of the house. But I want to show you something tricky and funny about storm doors. You would think with a brand new door it would come ready for a storm door. But it is not, because if we put our storm door right up against this right now, look what's going to happen. The first time we close the door, it's going to break against the doorknob. So we have to add what we call a jamb extension. This is your door jamb. We're going to extend the jamb out beyond the doorknob so that when the door closes, it doesn't hit the doorknob. And making jamb extensions and hanging a storm door takes patience. So as you can see, we're getting ready to install a new pre-made metal storm/screen door. At this point, I have taken a ton of measurements on the front door, so you'll see what I'm doing. I got to bring this whole thing out about 1.25 inches. So I'm gonna use some of this, since everything is PVC on this door. I bought a couple of hunks of 1.5 by 1.5 that I'm gonna trim down. So let's get the storm door up.
In the interest of staying on topic and not making this video a million years long, I went ahead and made the executive decision to leave out the installation of the storm door. I guess you'll just have to wait until the next time I install a storm door to learn how to install a storm door. I also did the same thing with the trim work, because I'm pretty sure you didn't show up today to learn how to install trim, just to do it. Right here, we're gonna go ahead and cut to the finished product, all painted and everything.
Okay, here we are all finished. The door's all done. Let me show you a couple things that I did. Making these jamb extensions right here. This is a 1.5 by 1.5 piece of PVC because the entire system is made out of PVC. I used this part right here as PVC to make the jamb extension. As you can see, screen door had to come at the storm/screen door had to come out far enough so it doesn't hit the knob when it closes. So that's why the jamb extensions. Anyway, thanks for joining me on this one. See you on the next one.
Well, that's it. Thanks for joining us. Please subscribe to our channel and check out our new website, americasfunniesthandyman.net. And as always, folks, thanks for letting us bring a whole lot of experience and a little bit of humor onto your job site.
Fixing stuff in a serious way with a not so serious guy.